and welcome to my channel. My name is Chloe Goodman, also known as the Beauty Queen Brat. I'm here to discuss makeup and mysteries with you today. I decided to expand from just conspiracy theories because I didn't want to pigeonhole myself down the road. And who doesn't love some good folklore and ghost stories? I do, for sure. So I was like, let's just open up the door. Let's do it all, baby. And so here we are, and let's just jump right into it. Disclaimers before we get started: all the information that I find is not my own. I find it on the internet, Reddit, YouTube, Wikipedia, all the different sources you find on the internet. I'm not a professional makeup artist. I'm an amateur at best. So if the makeup comes out looking like then you know why. This week I will be talking about a Native American indigenous person's folklore, so I'm going to touch it as delicately as I can and not use it in any way that could possibly be insensitive. This week we are going to talk about Wendigos, also known as Wendigos, also known as 36 other different names that all start with W. I have a mirror down below, so if I'm looking down, that's why. Well, there's two versions of the Wendigo. It depends on the story. We have the physical version of it where it's very tall, has a stag-like head, a humanoid stag kind of combination. It can either be really tall or it can be the size of the last victim that it had eaten. Also really emaciated to the point where you can see its bones, and it's ash gray, really hollow eyes. It's supposed to have a heart of ice and no lips. Other version of the Wendigo is the malevolent spirit, more kind of where it originated from. The spirit version is supposed to possess humans that show excessive greed and have become really selfish within the tribe. The spirit possesses the human. One thing that they both have in common is they both have this insatiable, unfathomable desire to eat human flesh, making it a cannibalistic monster. I should have put in the disclaimers that we are going to be talking about cannibalism. I kind of just didn't think about it because I was like, it's in the title. But yeah, so that's kind of where you have the malevolent spirit and you have the physical kind of monster. The Wendigo originated in the North American, the northern North American region, the Quebec, Montreal region of Canada, northeast region of the US, as well as the Great Lakes region of the US. It originated as an Algonquian spoken urban legend to help teach cooperation and moderation. Wendigos are the embodiment of gluttony, selfishness, greed, and excess. They're associated with winter, the cold, the north, famine, and starvation. There are 37 different names for the Wendigo that all start with W. The physical version of the Wendigo is supposedly supposed to be a stag humanoid combination, but the only animal that was ever associated with the myth was an owl. Depending on the dialect, Wendigo actually translates to owl or cannibal. If you're wondering what's all on my face, I put tape. So anyway, the whole stag humanoid kind of creature originated from the movie The Wendigo by Larry Fessenden, who didn't even really do any research on the myth till after he filmed the movie. So ridiculous. Maybe you should do your research before you steal other people's culture. I said nothing. The Wendigo is also supposed to represent the reincarnation of winter, the embodiment of hunger, and the personification of selfishness. I'm trying this new thing where I use palettes that don't cost $5 million. It's going okay, but this color kind of sucks. It's supposed to be a burnt orange, and this is not a burnt orange. What if we mix it? Literally not any better. It's an awful color. Switching colors because I hate this color and this is not what I was going for. All communities that share this folklore experience really harsh winters, heavy snowfall, freezing temperature, and lack of resources. This is much better. All Wendigoag, which is technically the correct term for plural Wendigo.
Wendigoag. Wendigo ag, Wendigo ag, Wendigo ag, Wendigo ag, Wendigo ag, Wendigo ag.
All Wendigo ag start out as humans. Doesn't matter if they're a male or female from the beginning. By the time that they have transformed into these monstrous beings, they are genderless. People become Wendigo ag by eating human flesh or dreaming of the Wendigo, which is really troublesome for me because I've been having nightmares about this creature for the last like 4 days, and this windstorm is not making me feel any better about it. Like, literally, do you hear that? It's shaking my whole house. It can also be caused by a spiritual imbalance or selfishness. Wendigo ag actually thrive in the winter. The elements don't really affect them. They can travel during blizzards, and they prey on people who have been separated from their tribes or just their groups, or they're just traveling alone. Can I have a bite? Can I eat you? Can I eat you, sir? A nibble is satisfied. According to like myth and legend, the Wendigo ag are able to smell human blood from miles away. They can also mimic human voices in order to like lure in their prey. Typically mimic like crying babies. It would like entice mothers and parents to go into the forest to try to find their crying child. Whistling at night and saying their name repetitively is also said to attract them. One way to know that a Wendigo is around, all of a sudden it's like really cold and there's a foul smell. It's just still, and then there's like a sudden snowstorm. They are impossible to escape. They have no problem opening doors. Even if you do escape them, there's a good chance you're gonna lose your mind. By the way, during the 19th century, Wendigo Psychosis was an actual diagnosis for people who had this really intense desire to eat human flesh and were really paranoid and fearful of becoming a cannibal. Sounds about right on for what we're talking about. In most cases, it just sprung up kind of like for no reason. It wasn't due to a scarcity of food or lack of resources. Just imagine waking up one day and be like, wow, you know what I really could eat this morning? Not an egg McMuffin, but human flesh. Other symptoms of Wendigo Psychosis was greed and destruction of the environment. So basically what we're doing now. I don't know, man. Jeff Bezos looks like he eats people. Mark Zuckerberg definitely eats people. In 1661, members of the French Jesuit missionary came to North America and traveled all around the northern part of North America. And they interacted with lots of different indigenous tribes in hopes to spread Catholicism. In one passage, the Jesuit members described like the ill fate of a group of men that they were supposed to meet. These men had been overcome by a mystery psychosis. I wonder what the psychosis could be. I'm just going to directly read off a passage from the Jesuit missionaries and how they describe these group of men. They became so ravenous for human flesh that they pounced upon women, children, and even upon men, like veritable werewolves, and devoured them ferociously without being able to appease or glut their appetite, ever seeking fresh prey, and the more greedily, the more they eat. These men ended up being executed, the ones who had the weird psychosis. There was this guy named Swift Runner who was a generally liked guy. He took his family into the forest in the winter of 1878, and then he wasn't seen again until the spring of 1879. He said that his wife and kids had died of starvation during the winter, and the police at Fort Saskatchewan were like, yeah, I don't know, Swift, you kind of looking like you've been eating good. If they're dead, why aren't you dead, Swift? Why didn't you starve to death? So the police go investigate his campsite, and they come across a bunch of bones. Bones are clean. The bones are clean. Like some, even the marrow has been hollowed out. When confronted by the police, Swift Runner confessed to murdering his wife and their 6 kids and eating them. So Swift Runner's story went on to be the main example of Wendigo Psychosis. He was executed in the late 1879 in Alberta's first government-sanctioned hanging. In the 1970s, Wendigo psychosis was under fire and like being questioned because there had never been any studies of it, never studied anyone who was suffering from Wendigo psychosis. It's not really thought to be an actual diagnosis anymore. Frequency of the Wendigo psychosis has actually dwindled and decreased immensely since the 20th century as indigenous peoples have kind of come closer in contact with Western ideologies. I'm gonna quickly put some eyelashes on. I'll be right back. In the early 20th century, there was a shaman known as Jack Fiddler. That wasn't his official name, but that's how the Europeans knew him. Jack claimed to be a shaman who could kill Wendigo and said that he killed as many as 14 in his lifetime. That's a lot of Wendigo. And all of the Wendigo that Jack executed were all malevolent spirit Wendigo, and so they were all humans. As humans, they were possessed by a malevolent spirit. Our boy Jack here took care of them. He did this by executing them. When Canadian officials heard about Jack's pastime, they sent officers to go investigate. Police showed up. They found a woman who had been strangled to death and immediately arrested Jack and his brother. Jack managed to escape but killed himself once he escaped prison. His brother actually received a pardon but then died 2 days before he was supposed to be released. So that's the story of Jack Fiddler. Throughout the late 19th century into the early 20th century, there had been a lot of these murders of people who had been possessed by Wendigo like spirits. Sightings are still being reported today, but not nearly as much as they were. There are a lot of reports in like the early 20th century into like the 1920s in like northern Minnesota. Since then, there hasn't been that many. So sightings are still being reported, like I said, in that town in Minnesota, as well as in northern Ontario near a town called Kenmore. Sightings are near Wendigo Cave, right outside Kenmore. You can also see the Wendigo in Marvel Comics as Hulk's like main antagonist. During one of these fights between the Hulk and Wendigo, Wolverine makes his first appearance in the comics. That's pretty cool. You can see it as well in series like Supernatural, Charmed, and even in My Little Pony. That's all the information I have for you guys. That is the Wendigo. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys like the folklore. I'm just gonna kind of play around with different mysteries until, you know, we see what everyone's into. And if you have any recommendations, please leave it in the comments. I tried to be as culturally sensitive to the story as I could be with giving the full kind of backstory. I hope you guys enjoyed. I had a great time hanging out with you. Don't forget to hit subscribe and like and share it with all your friends, because God knows I'm annoying everyone, constantly trying to get them to watch my videos. It's a wrap on week 2, guys. Hell yeah. And next week, I will be talking about Nibiru, the 9th planet, supposedly in our solar system. Alright guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me and have a great rest of your week. I'll see you next week.